Here he is still a young man. This D minor concerto, somebody has put it very tellingly that let's imagine Brahms without the beard. We know these portraits of Brahms as an old man with the beard and with a very strong, very impressive figure. But he was not always like that. This first piano concerto underwent many changes and metamorphoses as a sonata for two pianos, and then it took him several years to compose this, basically because of the burden of the past. And he was very, very self-critical. When the first piano concerto was premiered in the Gewandhaus in Leipzig, played by Brahms himself, it was not a success. It was quite a fiasco, and Brahms went into a deep depression after this. Why was it not a success? Because it is so new. He even breaks with the Mozartian, the Beethovenian tradition. I mean, already in the last two Beethoven piano concertos, they have a certain symphonic character. But here, it takes about 5 minutes before the piano enters, and it starts with a huge orchestral tutti. The timpani, the drum roll, it is like an earthquake. And it's also very new that, you know, in the bass we have the Ds, we are in D minor, but already this chord, you know, usually a classical concerto would start on the tonic. But not like So there is something existential in this, and it is a very symphonic movement, especially the first one, maestoso, so majestic in character. And after this long orchestral exposition, at long last the piano enters with a beautiful, very melancholy theme. Which we haven't heard before, played by the orchestra. And so, yes, full of fire and drama and very tempestuous character, but there is also wonderful lyricism here in the second subject on the piano. And then it continues into this wonderful motif. Which is then taken up by the horn. The horn is a favorite instrument of Brahms, and it recalls what we often have in German Romanticism, the forest, the concept of the forest. There are forests everywhere, but I find that in Germany, and mostly in northern Germany, the forest has a special meaning and a special magic. And we associate the sound of the horn with hunting, and so the horn represents the forest and outdoor music making. So we are not in the living room, but out in nature. And the second movement, very uncharacteristically, is also in 6/4 time. So the time signature is the same as of the first movement. And here the biography is very important. As a young man, Brahms got to know Robert and Clara Schumann. And Robert Schumann was like a father figure for him. He was some 20-something years older than him. But Schumann was a very important figure in European music, not just as one of the greatest composers, but as a writer. And he was the first real music critic, but the best one. Robert Schumann discovered Brahms, and so he really welcomed him as a new lighting spirit in German and in European music. And this helped Brahms to start his career as a musician, as a composer. So at the end of his life, Robert Schumann got more and more disturbed and depressed. He suffered from manic depression, and he tried to commit suicide. He jumped into the river Rhine, which is just ahead of us here. And he survived this suicide attempt. There were some fishermen who saw this, and so they helped him out. But then after this, he went into a mental asylum here in Endenich, on the suburbs of Bonn, and that's where he spent his last few years of his life, and he died in a terrible condition, and this was a great tragedy. So the second movement of the D minor concerto is an homage to Schumann and to his suicide attempt. And it's a very religious movement. So we know it as a fact that this movement is a Benedictus. It could be part of a requiem or of a Catholic Mass. And Benedictus qui venit in nomine Domine. So blessed be the one who comes in the name of God. So Benedictus qui venit in Domine. It's a wonderful, moving, very, very intimate movement. And to finish the concerto, Brahms again looks back at Beethoven, whose third piano concerto starts like this. A very impressive and full of temperament rondo, allegro rondo. So Brahms writes very similar character. Maybe a little more Hungarian in character. Of course, I'm a Hungarian, so I'm speaking from home. I feel that this music has a lot of paprika, a lot of sharp pepper. and follows absolutely the form and the structure of the Beethoven concerto. This is very characteristic of Brahms. There is always a model. We will see this in the second concerto even more. So Brahms never imitates Beethoven or Mozart or Haydn or Chopin, but he knows them all. And there is always this element of knowledge, very deep knowledge and very deep culture. I find this very, very touching in Brahms. And his modesty and his self-critical ability. So all the works that we know of Brahms are excellent. They are masterpieces, but we don't know all the works of Brahms that he threw away because he was not satisfied. He was almost never satisfied. This is wonderful. It's very important for such a great artist. Never be satisfied.